There has been some breaking news this morning, not just out of America, but what's going on in Israel. There's been some attacks in Damascus and Syria, and this has gotten a little bit of attention, but I definitely wanted to check in with Jeff Balaban from ACLJ Jerusalem. So Jeff, just kind of give us an update here, because it isn't dominating our news cycle right now. We're not seeing it a lot, but the images that have come out look pretty intense.
Both Israel and Syria have a minority population of the Druze religion. The Druze religion spun off of Islam, and it's its own faith, and they're extremely loyal here in Israel. They serve in the army, and they're very loyal to whatever government they have if the government treats them well. Well, in Syria now, the new rulers of Syria are not treating them well. Apparently, there seems to be a lot of savagery and massacres against Druze. And so the Druze community in Israel has asked the state of Israel to help support them against the current rulers of Syria. Now, this implicates America as well. America is very happy with the fact that the current rulers of Syria, the temporary rulers of Syria, we'll see how long they last, are blocking Iran's access to Hezbollah. And now Israel also likes that. But of course, neither Israel and, or we hope America, will really tolerate the religious abuse and massacres of the Druze minority. So this is very important to the Druze here in Israel. And this now implicates the question for Israel is how much will they support the Druze community? And right now they are supporting. And of course, there's a lot of international dialogue because the United States has a stake in this as well in terms of stability of the region.
And I know that a lot of eyes around the world will be on this, even if this doesn't break through necessarily in American headlines as much. We'll see some stories on it, but kind of a lesser conflict that's starting out. But Jeff, I know that you've had some meetings on this in Israel, and what are you hearing just kind of on the ground as you're back in Jerusalem about this situation and kind of what we should be looking out for here in America?
Well, I did. I had a significant briefing today with military involved in this decision-making and also advising. And it does seem clear that there is an interest in Israel, very much has an interest, and not just humanitarian interest, which it has, but also an interest in protecting the Druze population. Now, the Druze already, there are reports that Druze fighters have left from Israel and gone over the border on their own, not under IDF command, to wage war. And the question is, how much is the IDF going to support it? There definitely is an interest in stability in Syria, but right now it's a very unstable situation. And it does seem that there is a necessity of supporting the Druze population. Look, to me, taking a big step back just in terms of my view of this shows you the problem with these borders that were drawn in the region. The Jewish territory was cut into a tiny piece. And right now there's a huge Sunni Muslim versus Shia fight that's been going on for a long time. And all these minority communities, Christians of various sorts in various places in Lebanon and elsewhere, Druze and others, the Kurds, they're caught up in this giant war that the Muslims keep on having. And since it does seem to me that there's a path forward, maybe that this president, because he's so bold, can help with this prime minister, and there seem to be a great team, in restructuring even the borders here to have more permanence and safety and security for the minorities, including the many, many Christians who are under dire attack from in the countries they live in under Muslim control.
Jeff, I want to shift topics a little bit back to U.S. focus as you are back in Jerusalem, though. But we've been talking about the issues surrounding this mayoral candidate, Zoran Mamdani in New York. And there's a report from Politico. And I just think the headline and the lead sentence of this report is so telling about and unfortunate about where we are. This says, Mamdani expected to clarify his position on, quote, globalize the intifada. That's the headline. Then the first sentence, Zoran Mamdani plans to clarify his stance on the use of the phrase, quote, globalize the intifada as soon as this week, as he consolidates support in his bid to be New York City mayor.
I think I come up with an idea.
It's got to take as soon as this week, may take a little bit longer, depending on what the focus groups tell us, if it's going to isolate anyone too much.
Out those specific words
about how we can either support and or distance ourselves from terrorism. I just want to get your thoughts on that and where we're at.
Yeah, globalizing the intifada literally means whether or not there should be murder, rape, torture, kidnapping in America, in New York. But he's not sure whether or not he can come out against it because so much of his base either supports exactly that or has been led over the last number of years to believe that all of these chants, like River to the Sea and others, which are actually genocidal chants, or the use of the phrase resistance or jihad as though it's something other than brutal, bloody murder of civilians, they've made excuses when it was about Israel and Jews. Well, globalize the Intifada means make it global. And Intifada is violent uprising. And we saw it first come into public display in the 80s and 90s, where it was bus bombs all over Israel and shootings and stabbings and car rammings. And that's the Intifada. And they are calling for that around the world, including America. And this candidate for mayor of New York isn't sure what position he should take.
I wanted to ask you that, Jeff, as someone who is a New Yorker, spends a lot of your time there. We see the headlines of Madani. We see, obviously, Cuomo now saying he's stepping into the race, and not just to talk about politics, but stepping into the race as an independent, maybe seeing that there is that. It just feels like New York did not run the best crop of people for this time around, because you feel like if you had someone who was more in line, I mean, obviously, if Cuomo did not have a lot of the baggage that he comes with, maybe he would have done better. Feel like he was doing better. And then all of a sudden, you have someone who can rile up young people, and it felt like game over very quickly.
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't blame me. I moved out of New York City and I live in New York, or I split my time, obviously. We have a place in New York, but not in the city. Nonetheless, I'm very close to the city. And it's just another sign of how the national discourse has gone completely insane. I mean, what they call the Overton window, which is, what you're allowed to discuss in regular everyday politics, is now talking about genocide, like approvingly, genocide of the Jews. And by the way, I'll bring another element into this. There was a poll that was done this week about Trump's popularity in New York, and it turns out, this, I know, surprised a lot of people, that New York Jews, which is the biggest population outside of Israel, there's no city with more Jews, in fact, than New York by far. 57% approve of Trump, which is more than any other religious group in New York and any other ethnicity in New York. And so a lot of it has to do with, I spend my time here in Israel. So many people are saying it feels so much safer in Israel than it does in New York these days. And that's in the middle of a war. And that is the way it feels.
One of the most big, real wars that Israel's been a part of in our lifetime. And it feels that way. And I feel bad for that, because you're right. New York, I mean, it used to be, it is still a hub for Judaism, hub for Jewish people. If you go certain neighborhoods, it feels like you are in those areas in a good way. Like, I've always enjoyed that part of it. So to see such a mass voting group come out and support someone who is saying things that are this intense, including, by the way, like you said, 50% of plus of Jewish people in New York are supporting President Trump. But there is still that group, especially maybe the celebrity circle, that seems to still not be taking these kind of words seriously, and we got to get behind this guy because he's young and he's successful, and he doesn't like what Israel's doing, and therefore he must be our hero, even if we're Jewish.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this report. Somebody dug up, Donnie's father was a well-published author and academic, and he actually wrote an argument praising suicide bombing. The suicide bombing, it's as though it's a good thing because they're putting their lives on the line for a cause. Yeah, that cause is the extermination of the Jewish people. Yeah. It's not really a great thing to be a Nazi suicide bomber, and that's what his father wrote.
You're a suicide bomber. Your job is to kill other people,
right?
Regardless of even their religious. I mean, obviously they're very specific in that, but in general, you think that'd be enough to go, maybe this isn't the right guy. But no, here we are. Jeff, I always appreciate you joining us. Is there anything else people need to know as we head into just our last segment of the day? We're going to take a lot of calls. But I know that there's a lot of updates from Israel, and it's why we have the ACLJ Jerusalem office. It's why you're there. It's not just to make sure that we get updates from you each and every day, but to make sure that their influence, our viewership, our listenership, our supporters, that their influence is heard as well.
Sure. I mean, they want to know what our view is of how this activity with the Jews might affect U.S.-Israel relations. It really is a two-way street. We're here to bring it back to America, but also to help the Israelis understand what's happening in Washington.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.